Two special marine units are on their way to the Middle East, officials have told CNN. It's not yet clear what these marine expeditionary units would be used for, or in fact where they would be deployed, but speculation does centre around one option for Washington: seizing Iran's Kharg Island, which handles some 90% of the country's oil exports. So if the US were to try and take Kharg Island, what would it look like? This was a joint military exercise 3 years ago in Pohang on the southern coast of South Korea that involved a US Marine Expeditionary Unit, or MEU, and South Korean Marines. Troops on the beach, attack helicopters, F-35 stealth fighters, huge assault ships, all training for a land invasion. And now two of these MEUs are on their way here to the Middle East, according to officials, although their mission has not been revealed. Now, if Trump does decide to take Kharg Island, it would be a major escalation. But a Marine Expeditionary Unit is just the type of unit that is designed for that operation.
Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS that give us his truth and Holy Spirituality, and salutations to all the occupants pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth in sincerity and the truth. I'm their brother Yahusap, and the topic of this lesson is going to be centered around these drafts and this coming Third World War. You know, and as everybody should know, the U.S. increased the age of enlistment from 34 to 42 years old, you know, which means that they're not getting the amount of recruits that they need. And I remember, like 3 years ago, the Marines and, you know, all the different branches of the military, it came out that they were low on numbers, you know, and that they need a few dozen thousands of, you know, recruits in order to meet, you know, the whatever quota that they have. And that was 2-3 years ago. And now, fast forward, 2026, you know, we're in a war with Iran, and they're still low on those numbers. So that's why they had to up the age. But guess what? Nobody wants to fight in this war. You know, prior, you know, to this war and previous wars, people were more patriotic. You know, the propaganda was stronger back in, you know, 70s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. You know, when 9/11 happened, a lot of people signed up to go out there if they felt like it was their duty, you know. But after that, the internet became popular, more popularized, and people got access to information. And now in 2026, you know, a lot of people know what those wars were really about. How it was about oil, you know, how it was about the opioid fields, you know, how millions of people died and got displaced because of those wars. So a lot of people are not willing to go do that, especially knowing that this war is not even for America. It's a war for Israel. So nobody wants to die for Netanyahu. So, you know, they're running into this big problem. So that's why they increased the age. But, you know, eventually they're going to have the draft. Once Trump puts boots on the ground, which he's about to do, you know, hopefully by this weekend or by next week, right around the time for the Passover, spirit, right? So, you know, once he does that, those troops are going to get slaughtered, which that will require, you know, for more troops, you know, which means they're going to have a military draft. And once they do that, hey, man, people going to riot, people going to protest, right? There's going to be pandemonium. So without further ado, let's get Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. The second world war is past, and behold, the third world war comes quickly. Now, Revelation, the 9th chapter, speaks about the first, there's a first woe. The first woe is past, and two woes more come hereafter. So that means that there's supposed to be 3 different woes, which is 3 world wars. The first world war already passed. The second world war already passed. And now the third world war is coming quickly. And we see it. The escalations are happening very quickly on an intense scale, on a daily basis. Every day they escalate. They hit in the morning, afternoon, and at night, right? So it's a lot of back and forth, tit for tat. But eventually it's going to escalate to the point where, hey, they might just drop a tactical nuke on Iran, because there's been in the talks as well. They're running out of ammunition, right? Reports say, I believe they have 2 months worth of ammunition supply left, right? So they got to do this thing quickly. So that's why Trump is rushing to get these troops over there, right? But this is World War III. Make no mistake. This ain't going to be no Afghanistan or Iraq, right? Where they're just able to go and draw out the war for years and years and years, and then, eventually just leave, right? Like they did in Afghanistan. That's not going to happen this time. Iran got America in a chokehold. The Strait of Hormuz being shut is going to create economic collapse in America and globally, as well as famines due to the fact that fertilizers is not being shipped, right? And they're already too expensive. So this is going to lead to total chaos all throughout the four corners of the earth. And it's all written and prophesied of in the scriptures. This is, hold on, Luke. This is Luke chapter 21, verse 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. And that's what we've been seeing. Different, different so-called meteorites, right? We've seen the different so-called meteors that's been, appearing all over the world, really, but mainly here in America this past week or two, right? They got different videos all over different states where they're seeing those so-called meteors, which we know those are UFOs. Those are the angels of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bashim Shah, right? So that's part of the signs, as well as the blood moon that just passed, right? Eclipses, right? Three-Eye Atlas a few months ago, right? All these things are signs. Solar coronal mass ejections, right? All these things are signs from the heavens, as the Lord prophesied. So it says, and upon the earth, distress of nations. We see that. Distress of nations is happening right now. This whole oil crisis is causing distress of nations. It's causing chaos all throughout the four corners of the earth. You got long lines at different gas stations in Asia and Australia. You already have people panic buying. You already have shortages of certain things, right? So it's only a matter of time before these things take hold of the whole earth. So it says, hold on one second. Yep, the word for distress. It says the Greek word is sinoke. It says from restraint, anxiety, anguish, distress. So anxiety, right? There's anxiety all over the earth right now due to all the different economic woes, the different tensions of war. All of this have people on edge. It says a holding together, a narrowing, the contracting part of a way, metaphorically, straits, distress, anguish, right? So the Lord is putting the world in dire straits due to the Strait of Hormuz, right? The Lord shut it down using the Carmonians, which is the Iranians, and now is causing economic woes, right? So it says, and upon the earth distress, anxiety of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, right? You have all types of earthquakes that's been happening throughout different oceans and tsunami warnings in Hawaii and Japan. This always happens. But as we get closer to the end, it's going to intensify more and more. We're going to see more tsunamis, right, on different islands and different coasts due to earthquakes. That's going to be the new norm on natural disasters, right? It says, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Men's hearts failing them for fear, heart attacks, right? Straight heart attacks from seeing the different calamities that are coming upon the earth. That's how much fear and chaos Yahweh Shemashah is getting ready to bring, right? Because people see, death, a lot of people just going to die. In America, people aren't used to seeing calamity, They're not used to seeing death, right? In those other countries, they're used to that. Whether it be the war, natural disasters, these people, they're used to seeing that, right? And as a testimony, I saw it, right? Back in 2010, the earthquake that hit Haiti, I was there, right? And I seen it all. I seen thousands upon thousands of dead bodies, rubbles, bodies, body parts, right? People that's maimed, body parts missing. I seen this lady with her back ripped open, and I was looking at her spine, right? Seen people under rubbles asking for help, right? Stuck under the rubbles, bodies on the streets, blood on the street, the smell of death, right? For over a year, easily over a year, probably even longer. Everywhere you went, it was nothing but the stench of death. And the Lord said, whatever we saw in our lives is nothing compared to what's to come. So get ready to see millions and millions and millions of dead people, man. The scriptures say 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Nigh who? Nigh the elect of Yahweh Shemashah, the 1/3, right? The 144,000, which makes up the government body of the 1/3, right? They're not going to see the plagues and the death and calamity that's going to befall these people, right? Now, the scriptures talk about how there's going to be martyrs for Yahweh Shah. So you're going to have men that die for, the testimony, by getting, what's it called, decapitated, by getting the firing squad, lethal injection, right? By troops coming in different, houses, taking brothers out, some brothers, right? But that's part of the story, and we have faith that Yahweh Shemashah is able to raise up his elect even after death. He's still able to bring deliverance. The scriptures talk about how the ones that die in the Lord, he's going to bring with him on the chariots, so that's a glory in itself, right? But back to Luke 21 and 26, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. Now, remember, those jabs is taking people out. Cancer, myocarditis, heart attacks, all these things are coming out. And back in 2020, 2021, 2022, throughout those years, we've been warning our people, you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, to stay away from these jabs. And now look, right? Killing people. And one of the main things that is doing to kill people is giving them heart issues, right? So, a little exercise alone could cause these people to fall, to die of heart attacks. So imagine them walking around with that substance in their bodies, and they're going to have to go through all this stress in his last days. That's going to contribute to a lot of heart attacks, these jabs. It says, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. When these things begin to come to pass, and look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. That's right. So that's why we always looking up to see those chariots, because we understand that these are the chariots of our salvation, the chariots of Israel and the horsemen thereof. So the closer we get to the end, the more they're going to be made manifest. And the apostles, they always been saying that, especially the apostle Tahar, that, throughout the years, that as we get close to the end, they're going to start appearing lower and lower and for longer. And we see that, This is, Oslakia, go up. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 6. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. And that's what we see happening. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So these things must come to pass, right? It says, see that ye be not troubled. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. So we're not stressed out. We're not panicking, right? People are panicking over this situation. Panic buying out bug out bags and doing all this extra shit. Our brothers is just, calm, cool headed, right? We're not worried because we've been expecting these things, So it doesn't affect us as it does somebody who doesn't have the light, who doesn't understand these prophecies, right? Who don't have the hope of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. So it says, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And that's what we see, Iran versus America. And more nations are going to get involved as we, as the time goes by, right? Because it's affecting their economies. So they got to do something. They got to go send troops to help open up the strait, to fix the situation, right? So it says, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines. This whole strait being shut off is going to cause famines. By summertime, we will see famines all over the earth, right? Because of these fuel shortages. And that's going to be one of the main motivators that the so-called white man uses to get people to take the chip, the mark of the beast, the CBDC implants, whatever name they want to put on them. We know what it is. It's a device that they put inside of your body, right? People are going to get desperate. So they're going to tell them, in order for you to eat, in order for us to give you these rations, take this, right? And people are going to fall for it. And pestilences, we have talks of, what do you call it, some white virus spreading throughout the states. You got new variants of Novid spreading. You have meningitis spreading. These are plagues and pestilences from Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. And these things are going to get worse. Watch them, start switching the diseases like they did Novid. Oh, yeah, meningitis just mutated. Now, it has a death rate of 50%, right? Because they're the ones in the lab, creating these different diseases and viruses and releasing them to the population because they have to meet a certain quota. The population of the earth has to be brought down to 500 million from 8 billion. So how are they going to do that? Through World War III, nuclear war, famines, and pestilences, as well as natural disasters, which is why it says in earthquakes in diverse places, right? Ultimately, all these things, the Most High is the one that's in control. He's the one bringing these things, even if he's using a so-called white man to do it. So this is not, the white man's plan. This is the Lord's plan. Like Apostle Hall said years ago, this is the Most High's New World Order, right? A New World disorder, really. But it is still the Lord's plan, the Lord's agenda. It is the purpose of the Lord. Matter of fact, is Isaiah 14, I think. This is Isaiah chapter 14, and I'm going to start at 24. The Lord of hosts have sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand. The word of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua never goes out void, and we see it. Everything he said would happen, we see it taking place right now, right? The war between Iran and Israel. The apostles been bringing this out for decades, right? Go look at the past videos from 07, 08, even before then. They've been saying that Israel would attack Iran and this would cause the start of World War III. And that's exactly what's happening, right? But that's because those are the men of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. The Lord said he would raise us up prophets in Babylon in these last days. I'm thinking Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51, right? So those prophecies are taking hold of the earth. It says that I will break the Assyrian in my land and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. The Assyrian is a so-called white man. He's our oppressor. The Lord said he's going to break the Assyrian in his land. How's the Lord going to do that? Through the missiles. Missiles on Israel. Missiles on America. That's how the Lord's going to break you out of his land. And upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. So this is the end of our slavery. The end of the slavery of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans is going to come by the form of nuclear destruction of America, right? This is what happens when you enslave the Lord's people and commit all this wickedness. America is the hub, the epicenter of all the wickedness that's on the earth, right? So the judgment for that is total destruction and annihilation by nuclear judgment, right? Verse 26, which is the point. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth. And this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations. So this is the Most High's purpose, the Most High's plan. This is his agenda. Let's see what purpose is. The Hebrew word there is ya, was it yatazah? Yatazah, right? It says counsel, advice, purpose. This is the counsel of the Lord. And we're reading it. The counsel of the Lord is found through the Holy Scriptures. It says advice, plan, also prudence, advice, advisement, counsel, purpose. So this is the Most High's purpose, the Most High's counsel, the Most High's plan. It's to destroy the Assyrian, destroy Babylon the Great, destroy America, destroy the so-called white man. That is the Lord's purpose. For the Lord, Yahweh Shemashah, have purposed, of hosts have purpose, and who shall disannul it? And his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? So nobody can stop the will of Yahweh Shemashah, right? It's Isaiah chapter 3. Now, this chapter is speaking to our women, the Israelite woman, which is your so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American women, right? When you read from verse 16 on down, it's speaking about what the Lord is going to do to our women because of their pride, their haughtiness, them being hoes, right? The Lord said he would smite them with a scab. Basically, our women not being able to grow hair is a curse from the Heavenly Father, you know? And it said how the Lord is going to take away their different female Israelite figures, take away the ass cheeks. Look at the Issachar woman. Hey, man, a lot of our women don't be having no cheeks, you know, and they be out of shape, right? That's all. All these other curses, man, right? But when you go to the end, it says, verse 25, it says, thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war, which is World War III, right? Those military drafts is going to have a lot of our men die, you know? A lot of our men is already in the military. A few of them already died from those Iranian attacks, you know? So the Lord said, thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war. So the Israelite men, majority of them going to die in the war and the famines. The scriptures say that. We're reading it right now. It says, in her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. So the black woman is going to be humbled. All this strong, independent black queen, don't need no man and all that bullshit. That shit is done away with, man. You know, we're living in some times where you're going to need protection. And a woman can't protect herself. And she can get protection from the Most High. The only way she'll get protection from the Most High is if she has a man of the Lord. Is if she's under a man of the Lord, right? The Most High is not dealing with your women, man. You can't personal relationship with God. I talk to Jesus, man. You talking to Satan. The Most High don't deal with your women, man, right? And you're gonna realize that very soon, that all your Christian ways and all that bullshit, that's not gonna benefit you, man. Worshiping Jesus Christ and listening to your pastor, we're gonna see where that gets you. Thy men shall fall by the sword, and thy mighty in the war, and her gates shall lament and mourn, and she being desolate shall sit upon the ground. You're going to be desolate, man. No more dotting around and traveling abroad, going to Dubai, right? That shit is done away with. Dubai is shut down. The Middle East is shut down. And very soon, the whole world is going to be shut down through those energy lockdowns. You won't be able to afford ticket prices to travel. Right? That's only going to be for the rich. They're restricting traveling, which is one of the main points for the Great Reset. 15-minute cities, travel restrictions, lockdowns, right? Stay at home. That's what they're planning, man. Right? So you ain't going to be having no more fun going outside and partying, going to the club, twerking and shit. Everywhere you turn, the nigga woman is twerking somewhere in the public. Her funky box up in the air, you know, fucking up everybody's day, man. That shit is over with. Now let's go. 2nd Ezra, chapter 16. Oh man, hold on 1 second. 2nd Ezra 16 GNT. Okay. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse. I'm going to start at 17. It says, hold on. It says, I am doomed. Who will rescue me in those days? This is Ezra speaking. He saw the end. He saw the martial law. He saw the chaos, the famines, the pestilences. And, I'm like, damn, who going to save me? Who going to rescue me in those days? Yahweh Shem El Shah. That's how bad things are going to get. It's going to look like there's no way out, right? But us, as the hopeful elect, we're going to know the only way out is Yahweh Shem El Shah. It says, troubles will come and many people will groan. Famine will come and many will die. Famines are right around the corner. We're getting ready to see billions of people starve to death very soon, by summertime, Lord's will. It says wars will come and the world powers will tremble. We're in the midst of World War III right now, right? And it's going to cause nation to rise against nation and kingdom to rise against kingdom. You're going to have different alliances. As we read in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, Russia's going to ally itself with Iran, Turkey, Ethiopia, Libya, and many other people, including China, right? And you're going to have America on the side of, NATO, and as well as, a lot of these Arab states, So it says wars will come and the world powers will tremble. Disasters will come and everyone will be terrified. What will people do when these disasters come? That's right. So what people going to do? It's not like you can stop them. It's not like you could, up and leave the country, leave everything you have behind. Most people can't even afford to even take a trip, let alone move out of the country, And even then, right now, you have record numbers of Americans leaving the country. For the first time in history, there's more people leaving than people coming in the country. So America's tourism already been destroyed. The airlines have been destroyed. TSA is planning on shutting down multiple airports. This shit is over with, man. It says famine will come and many will die. Wars will come and the world powers will tremble. Disasters will come and everyone will be terrified. What will people do when these disasters come? They're going to panic and they're going to fall for this agenda. They're going to line up to take the chip, the mark of the beast, in order to go back to normal. Because that's what they did with Novid. They told you to go back to normal. You got to take this. And people fell for it. So they're going to use the same play. It says famine, epidemics, troubles, and suffering are sent to punish and correct people. So these things are being sent as correction. But it says, but in spite of all this, they will not turn away from their sins. They soon forget their punishment. So even as the Most High is punishing them, they're still going to commit their wickedness. They're not going to repent. They're going to get worse and worse. Right? Like the Lord told 2/3 of Israel, why should you be stricken anymore? You're going to revolt more and more. Right? So our people, as the Most High is bringing these plagues upon them, they're going to get worse and worse. It says the time is coming when food will be so cheap that people would think a time of peace and plenty has arrived. And that was during the epidemic, during and after. Well, during, a lot of stuff was expensive. But after that, right, the victuals was cheap. Food was cheap, A lot of other goods and items was cheap, And also because a lot of, there was a lot of store closures. So there was a lot of sales for stuff. And there's a lot of sales right now because of closures due to this, economy being crushed. It says, but then disasters will spring up everywhere. Wars, famine, and great confusion. Yeah, and that's what has happened since then. Right? Pandemic, people made a lot of money, man. Our people, Jake, they made a lot of money scamming, unemployment and all of that. Right? And now look, fast forward 2026, wars, famine, and great confusion. That's what we're getting ready to see. Confusion. Because people aren't prepared. People aren't preparing their minds for what's to come. They're not ready for this shock. It says many people on earth will starve to death, and those who escape starvation will be killed in war. So it's one or the other. Gonna die by the war or by the famine or by the pestilence. The scriptures talk about, I think in Jeremiah 15, how the Lord appointed a portion of each portion of 2/3 to a certain judgment. A portion to die by the famine, a portion to die in the wars, a portion to die by a ferocious beast, right? The Most High, he has different judgments prepared for sinners. Their corpses will be thrown out like garbage, and there will be no one left to comfort the living. So it's going to be bodies piled up all over the streets. And, the family members, the friends of those people that die are not going to have anybody to comfort them. Why? Because others are going to worry about their own people dying. And also, people are going to lose their whole families, whole friends, and they're going to be the only ones left. Everybody they know dead. Now, who's going to come and comfort you? The earth will be deserted and the cities demolished because of lack of people. Billions of people dying means less activity on earth, And we seen that during the epidemic when they had the lockdowns, animals was coming out. The earth started to flourish. Why? Because of so-called human activity, It says there will be no one left to plow the land or plant it. Now, right now, since last year, America's farms have taken a hit due to the fact that the so-called immigrants, those Hispanics, the Northern Kingdom, the Northern tribes, they've been either deported or haven't shown up to those fields, out of fear of being grabbed by ICE. So last year wasn't that much crops planted, and now this year, with this whole fertilizer crisis, and oil crisis, now farmers are warning Trump of a coming food crisis like never before, because everything depends on oil. The trucks that bring the food in different grocery stores, the farmer that uses diesel for different equipment and different types of oils, the chemicals, right? That's going to bankrupt millions of farmers. So, it's going to cause famines. It says trees will bear fruit, but there will be no one left to pick it. And that's the thing. It's not going to be really a shortage of food, because there's food really all over the earth. But it's the access to food that's going to really cause the famine, because you still have those fields. You're still going to have, places with, different fruit trees and things of that nature, cows and things of that nature, right? Deers and the wildlife, but people ain't going to be able to access them, It says, grapes will ripen, but there will be no one left to make wine. There will be desolation everywhere, and a person will long to see the face of another human being or even to hear another person's voice. And we've seen that in the movie I Am Legend. Will Smith was losing his mind because there wasn't nobody around, and he started talking in Dominican. So people are going to lose their minds, man. People are going to go insane from seeing all this death, these calamities, right? From being shell-shocked, Like, picture wherever you at right now. Picture, gunshots, screams, all night, all day and all night. People crying and screaming, commotions. That's going to be everywhere. It says only 10 will be left out of a whole city. So picture a city like New York City, right? Over here, you have 8 to 10 million people. Picture all the millions of people dying to the point where there's only 10 left. That's insane. There's bodies everywhere. Sidewalk, street lamp, rooftops, hanging, bodies in cars, parked, bodies on top of cars in the middle of the street. Wherever you turn, there's going to be nothing but bodies, man. Right? It says only 2 who have hidden in the forest or in the cave. So in the countryside, people that, know how to hunt, right? That can survive in the wild, they're going to hide in the wild. When an olive grove is harvested, 3 or 4 olives may be left of each tree. When grapes in a vineyard are picked, a few bunches may be left even by those who look carefully. That is how it will be in those days. 3 or 4 will be missed by the soldiers who search through the houses to kill everyone. So you're going to have soldiers going door to door, like we seen ICE doing a few weeks ago, which they're probably still doing now in Minneapolis and other cities, going door to door, right? Eventually it's going to be going door to door to kill people, right? To kill and capture. That's going to be the orders, And it says 3 or 4 will be missed. So you're going to have remnants, which those 3 or 4 represents the elect, The elect, they're going to be getting out of near misses, near death situations where a brother could have just been at the house, and he just left, just so happened to leave. Spirit, told brother to leave. Then 30 minutes later, they come to the house, looking for a brother, you know? And then, when they don't find him, leave, and then the brother come back, come back home, and shit is all in shambles and shit, but they left. They missed him, Stuff like that is going to be happening. Miracles also. Brothers can make brothers, the Lord can make brothers invisible. The Lord could just teleport brothers out of, dangerous situations. So expect for the unexpected to happen. Verse 32, the land will be left empty. The fields will be overgrown with briars. The roads and paths will be covered with weeds and thorns because there will be no sheep to graze along them. Young women will be in mourning because there is no one to marry them. Wives will be in mourning because they have lost their husbands. Daughters will be in mourning because there is no one to help them. Why? All the young men will be killed in the war, and all the married men would die in the famine. So that's what's coming, man. The military draft. The young men will be killed in the war. It's going to be a slaughter. The Middle East is going to be a meat grinder for all those bodies of those young men being sent out there. Young men and women, right? Because this draft ain't going to be just men. It's going to be women too. You bitches fought for equality, right? Now fight to keep that same equality. They're going to give your ass a gun, maybe a couple of days training, and put your ass in the front of the battlefield, right? That's what's happening in Ukraine, So you use Ukraine as reference, man. They literally ran out of men, kidnapping men off the streets, out of their schools, out of their houses, right? Just stop it, random traffic stop, and then boom. Now your ass in the front lines. Your family don't know what the fuck happened. So that's going to be happening here, You're going to have random, people just get grabbed off the streets by ICE or whatever and never to be seen again. Families don't know what the fuck happened, And that nigga body laying somewhere in Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Iraq or Yemen, somewhere in the Middle East, just dying, right? So what is that going to cause? That's going to cause women to be humble, Not having this protection is going to remove that pride from them. All that shit talking they do all damn day. Oh, he got to have this. All that shit is going to be thrown out the window, Well, you got to have looks. You got to be 6 feet. Yeah, that shit is going to be done away with. All that shit is for the media, right? When reality hits, they going to want somebody to protect him. They ain't going to care how he looks, what he got. All they going to want is protection. Which brings us to the book of Isaiah, the 4th chapter. And we can end off on that. This is Isaiah chapter 4. Yeah, I'm going to read it in this version, right? Isaiah 4:1. When that time comes, 7 women will grab hold of one man and say, we can feed and clothe ourselves, but please let us say that you are our husband so that we don't have to endure the shame of being unmarried, right? There you go, man. And when you read the 3rd chapter, as we read earlier, and the last verses, it's talking about your men are going to be killed in the wars and you're going to lament and sit upon the ground. So now that there's going to be a shortage of men, the Lord said, I will make a men more precious than fine gold, Israelite men, a men of the Lord. Men already are going to be, there's already going to be a shortage of men. There's already a shortage of men now. But there's going to be even a further shortage because of this war, right? So what are women going to do? They're going to resort to polygamy. They're going to resort to sharing. There's not going to be enough men going around for them to be picky, I don't like his jeans, Just the pettiest reasons they be using to deny men, right? Well, at that time, they're going to be begging, as we read it now. This is in the NLT, Isaiah 4:1. In that day, so few men will be left that 7 women will fight for each man. So they're going to fight. You might have, few women eyeing you down. And then one decide to make the move. Please. And then the others see that, and they seen it as their opportunity gone. So now they pull up. Next thing you know, it's a brawl. They all fighting, May the best woman wins, you know? And whoever win, you still walk away from her. Nah, you're not my type, right? Brother's going to be so picky in that day, man. Picky and cocky in a good way, right? Not out of pride, but out of, the fact that we know the Lord is dealing with us, out of the fact that we know this is the Lord recompensing you women for your pride, right? For how you've been looking down on the Israelite men. We're going to rejoice at that. You damn right. When we see black women dying, Hispanic women dying in the streets with their BBL being deflated on the floor, we're going to rejoice at that. We're going to drink to that, right? But you're going to be begging. You're going to be fighting. And right now, you already see that there is a female loneliness epidemic, and they're trying to gaslight men by saying that there's a male loneliness epidemic and all that. But really, there's a female loneliness epidemic. Because when you go online, all you see is women crying and complaining about being single and not being able to find the man that they want. Why? Because they don't know how to fucking pick. This is why arranged marriages are a thing. Women aren't supposed to pick their husbands. The father is supposed to pick him. So now you have a female loneliness epidemic. And now these women are losing their jobs. Over 1 million black women lost their jobs just last year alone. And that's going to skyrocket as this energy crisis goes on longer and longer. All businesses are going to be destroyed. All small businesses will be destroyed, right? Which means no jobs. Government jobs, government benefits, that's going to be done away with. All the resources are going to be pulled from all sectors of government, and be put towards this war. That's what happens in wartime. So it says, let us all marry you. We will provide our own food and clothing. Only let us take your name so we won't be mocked as old maids. Because in ancient times, a woman being married is a shame. It's a shameful thing. But now in this day and age, they see it as an accomplishment. They celebrate it. When these women make these posts on social media, I'm 40, single, no kids, living my best life, traveling and shit, right? Getting raw dog everywhere they go, And then when they get older, where all the good men gone, right? Men are trash, right? Because they made bad decisions. But you're going to have all these older women trying to fight for Israelite men, but they're going to get denied. Why? Because brothers are going to go for younger women for the most part, right? They're going to go for younger women because they're more than likely less tainted, Hey, listen, teenage, 14, 15, 16. People don't like to hear that, but that's going to happen, man, right? Those women are old enough to bear children. And according to the scriptures, that is lawful. And if we look at all of nature, when females are ready to reproduce, they get taken. But here we come to the so-called human species, so-called, and now all of a sudden, it's a pedophilia, it's off. But she can have children. It makes no sense. But that's what's going to happen, right? The Lord is going to preserve a lot of these younger women for men of the Lord. Because brothers ain't going to be dealing with these old maids. Women in, mid-30s, mid-30s and up, right? There's going to be a rare sight to see a brother with that. Because you can't bear children. You're old maid, right? So, hey, that's coming to fruition, man. This draft thing, hey, man, best believe by summertime, Lord's will, by summertime to the end of the year, your Isaiah 4:1 is going to come to pass. You're going to have the draft, and you're going to have all these plagues take hold of the earth, famine, pestilence, right? And so on and so forth. So with that, I'm going to close out. I hope this was edifying. I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yashah Bashim HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS that give us his truth. And salutations to all y'all can preach in this word. Shalom.